Greetings, heathens and heretics, and welcome to another In the Abyss album review. That's two in 2 weeks. Ooh, look, we were all efficient and ahead of the game, and
I blame all the albums coming out.
well, there is that. There is that. How are you, gents? You both good?
Ears full of doom. So that's
Yeah.
not a bad way to be, is it?
Yeah, grim. Autumn has arrived and magnificent timing considering.
Well, yeah, it is. It is. You may notice that there's no holy man at the minute, and we haven't done for a while, but the man himself is currently in the process of sort of moving house and flying back to the UK for visa nonsense, and then flying back to Saudi and all this rubbish. So we probably won't have the holy man for a little bit, but I'm sure he'll be back, and no doubt we'll hear the worst of it when he returns.
Well,
Yeah,
he'll just descend through a gap in the clouds, won't he? There'll
yeah,
just be this big crash of light and then a clap of thunder and then
it'll be like a dove from above.
yeah.
Woo.
Yeah.
Ooh, ooh, rah, ooh.
But anyway, like you said, it is autumn. Weather is turning to shit and everything's going miserable. So let's talk about Paradise Lost. Ooh, and all that. Yorkshire's second gloomiest band. 5 points for Yorkshire's
Yeah,
gloomiest band.
my dying bride.
There you go.
Yeah.
So new record, Ascension. Long old fucking back catalogue now. Paradise Lost.
This is their 17th album, which
Yep.
I was surprised. It's a weird one. I was surprised to read that. I thought 17, bloody hell. But then when you start counting back through them, you do realize that, yeah, they've been, really prolific and pretty
Yep.
consistent with that,
But
with the odd gap here and there.
it doesn't feel like 17 because obviously they took a bit of a detour.
Hmm.
So
We'll yeah,
yeah,
we will touch on that, I'm sure. But look, it's 5 years since Obsidian, so obviously, COVID gets in the way of all that and whatnot. So, but these days, a 5 year gap is nothing really, is it? It's pretty standard. So, but
Yeah.
we'll talk about Ascension first. We'll have a quick sort of dip into it. First impressions, chaps. What did we think? Sort of the initial blast.
yes.
Yes.
That's it. That's the review right there. Right there. Yeah, I mean, I was talking to you, Tregenza, about this one because it wasn't an immediate grab for me, but I had the kind of the third listen penny drop on it. So, kind of for whatever was going on the first couple of listens, I think I was distracted or it was on a commute or something like that, not taking it all in. Um, but there's just I mean, I'm sure we'll get into this, but Paradise Lost just have a knack of writing tracks that just get under your skin,
Yeah.
so by the time that third listen kicks in and there's familiarity there and you're just starting to it's just starting to get its claws in. um I had this okay, album of the year territory.
Well,
Ooh,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
that's a quick shift, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fucking-
Well, no, maybe that came a little,
Oh, Wayne's
maybe
World
that
stuff
came a
in it.
little bit after. But I had that moment of like, right, okay, I've centered myself in this. And yeah, no, to be fair, it's from that point on, it's just grown on me to the point where I'm like, okay, there's a lot to like about this album, a lot to like.
Is Old Man Reason going to offer anything other than yes?
I am. Yeah. It, I will echo that because it is. It's a slow grower.
Yeah, it is.
It's
Definitely is.
and it's an interesting one because I think my first impressions of the singles were, they're very melodic to a point where I'm thinking, oh, are we going to get Draconian Times Part Two? Because they
Mhm.
haven't really done that since then. Everything's been obviously after the synth period. It was very doomy, wasn't it? Very
Yeah.
goth, yeah, very, very dark and big. And this feels like they've gone back to that, but it doesn't have the immediacy of Draconian Times. It's more in line with a lot of their other stuff, but it has got that melodic sound. There is a bit of a balance there, but it caught me out because I was expecting this, but oh, okay, now I've got to work at it.
Mhm.
And that's definitely the case listening to this album. I mean, two or three times. It's not there, but it wants to be there. It is pulling me in sort of often, to the point where, yeah, it could well be a fave by the end of the year.
Well, once, twice, three times a lady then, because I feel exactly the same. It was like first listen through was a bit kind of, yeah, okay, it sounds like Paradise Lost. I can get into this, but it's probably been 4 or 5, maybe even more listens than that for it to actually really sink in and to differentiate one song from the next. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, it is a very it's a nice sort of full, thick sounding album, a nice sort of nice dense guitar tone and everything like that, as you'd expect from Paradise Lost. But I on the first couple of listens, I couldn't really pick out any like highlight moments or any songs that really jumped out at me or anything like that. So I was like, oh, I don't know where this is going to go, but give it the car test and then a bit at home and listen to it while I was working in my office and things like that. And it's gradually, it's gradually come round. I mean, Serpent on the Cross, which was a single, is a
Mm.
heavy start to the album, and it kind of gives you an idea where it's going to go, doesn't it?
It does, but there's also a surprise in that song as well because the penny drop for me, right? So just to tie up a few things that were just said then, it's like the my initial sort of like where is this going is it sounded initially like different eras of their career.
Mm.
I think it opens up, it sits very much in that kind of Medusa, Obsidian, that kind of latter day Paradise Lost sound. But as it goes on, you kind of move into this 90s era icon sound more towards the end, I think. So I was kind of like, whoa, okay, so where is this? The more I listen to it, the more all of that just blended together. But there's a new ingredient, and and it definitely comes across in that opening track actually. But it sounds like they're having fun.
Oh, steady on.
There's almost a kind of there's this just this almost jovial, positive, like when they kick in, like in that opening track, it sort of hits a groove a bit like Children of the Grave or something like that. It doesn't sound like that song, but they move into that higher gear, and I was thinking they sound like they're smiling.
They definitely don't.
No, I mean they make up for it. Well, in the next track, yeah, I mean, track two should have been the opening track because I think the lyric, like "Here comes another winter," is like the perfect opening line for a Paradise Lost song. But no, they saved that for the next track. But it kind of brings it back down to that more kind of grounded, what's the word? Grandiose sound that they do. But there's definitely moments in this where I'm hearing like kind of new wave of British heavy metal influences. I mean, there's one track, I think it's Sirens, where I just wrote down "Merciful Fate."
Well, funny that. I mean, I didn't get Merciful Fate from that song, but it's one of my favorites on the album, Sirens. Big sort of epic chorus to it, like really big. Um, but it feels almost arena rock
Mm.
in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, there's
Um,
two things I've written next to it. One is Merciful Fate, and the other is Metallica Black Album.
well, this is it. I
Yeah,
think there's
yeah,
a lot of this album. I don't think is either doom or goth. It almost feels like straight up early '90s post Black Album metal. Decent crunch, decent production, but sort of straight up melodic metal. No, no darkness, as it were. And there's a lot of that in this album, which
Mm.
surprised me. Um, so yeah, no, yeah, we're on the same wavelength.
So I suppose in that, I mean, we've mentioned a couple of different eras, but before we talk about the album in any more detail, if you were to take it out of 2025 and drop it in, into one of Paradise Lost's meandering points in their career, where do you think it would sort of sit if it wasn't coming out now? Because, and this is something I think we should talk about in a little bit more detail, is that Paradise Lost as a band, like you said, you've
Mm.
got the synth era, you got the really early gruff stuff and Draconian Times and Icon and really heavy doomier stuff a bit later on. So they have always twisted and turned, haven't they, throughout their career, which I
Yeah.
think they have had some stick for it, but I think it's testament to them as a band that we're still here talking about them and they're still releasing top quality stuff.
I think, yeah, I think for me, I think it's almost, I say almost, it's probably not. It's kind of a bit of everything, but it feels like a bit of a link between Icon and Draconian Times, I think.
I would say
If I had to
primarily.
pinpoint it.
Yeah, primarily, yeah. For me, that's where it kind of lands. I think we open with a very contemporary sounding Paradise Lost, which they retain throughout the whole album, actually. But then we get into the sort of the certainly the final third, we're kind of in that era. It's that 90s era. But I tell you what I think this album is. It's a masterful blend of so many things. Like their varying styles, I think they blended it perfectly. The sound, it's produced by Gregor McIntosh, which I haven't been paying enough attention to know if he's often the producer for their stuff, but he definitely produced this one. Um, and it sounds gorgeous.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
You know,
it really does.
and it's just lovely to hear it like a modern record, a modern sounding metal record, but that doesn't sound like it was put together in a computer, right? This sounds organic, it sounds analog,
Mm.
and I just there's this classy element to it, which just I think comes from being 17 albums into their career. Um, but I digress. I'm kind of thinking about that blend of sounds, and I thought about that a lot listening to this record because like the other thought I had was they're not really a riff band like Sabbath are, right? And they're not really, if you go to the other end of the spectrum, kind of a where it's all melody, like something like Maiden or something like that. They're kind of a perfect blend of all those
Yeah.
different influences, and they just come together in such a masterful way where you've got the weight. I mean, there are riffs there, but you know, they tend to be this kind of chugging, menacing energy, and then
It,
you've got these beautiful melodies that just get like woven through it.
yeah, it feels, a lot of metal bands write their songs based around the hook.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, I could be wrong. I don't think Paradise Lost do that. I think it's almost like they work out the vibe they want for that song first and how they want to structure it generally and then work the riffs into it from that point.
That yeah, I absolutely agree. There was one track I was listening to, I was consciously thinking, I don't know where this song started. Like, it doesn't sound like it started with a riff. It doesn't sound like it started with a melody. It just sounds like it's kind of evolved out of the Yorkshire fog. You know, it's
Do we need a swear jar for the word Yorkshire? Is that or
I thought you were
miserable?
going to make me put a penny in the swear jar for saying that they sounded like they were having fun.
Well, yeah, we
Well,
can't
that's
be having
definitely a
that.
Paradise Lost swear there, isn't it?
I think one song that kind of stands out there when you talk about riffs is Diluvium, if that's how it's pronounced. That's quite riffy. Like a couple of minutes in, it go that when that sort of like voice said that, Black Album, early '90s kind of metal, it really kind of kicks in. There's lots of double kick in there. There's some good old fucking full on soloing in there, and that's like, Nick Holmes sounds quite gruff and guttural in that as well, and it's a proper driving, anthemic metal song.
It's
But
it's interesting, yeah. I think that and the follow the track after Savage
Savage
Days,
Days,
yeah,
yeah,
that's got quite again a decent chorus to it. We know he's been a lot more deathy in the last decade.
yeah,
Mm.
Inside, not full on, but he rediscovered that growl for a lot of
Yeah.
for the tens and all that. But it worked with how they approached it. But it was quite a thick a thick sound across that decade. But of course, he's been doing stuff like Host, hasn't he? He's been dipping his toes
Mm.
back into the old synth stuff. And I wonder if he's thought, oh, you know what, I do like singing. I do enjoy it.
I
but he's
think it
got
just
he's got Bloodbath, hasn't he, to do all his growls
Well,
and things. So
exactly,
you've got
that's
yeah.
that
true.
That's
system.
it. I
Yeah,
wonder if he's like compartmentalizing everything a bit more these days.
yeah, that's
I mean,
possible.
I think that there's again to use that talking about that blend. I think Nick Holmes is blending everything he does really well on this album. So for me, he's man of the match on this record. I think he sounds phenomenal.
He
I,
does.
I
Sounds
think
great.
his
Yeah.
voice just sounds fantastic. Um,
The
and it's funny because
precipice, the precipice is another one. He's got a real proper deep growl in that one.
right, yeah,
We're all the
and
way down there.
voice. You mentioned the track "Savage Days." He sounds like listen to the intro. He sounds like Bruce Dickinson. It sounds like a kind of an Iron Maiden when he does that kind of very dramatic, sort of almost semi-spoken word delivery. Um, but there's tons going on. I think he sounds absolutely phenomenal on this record.
It's going to be one of those albums. I think that I mean, it's September now, so we're getting towards that latter part of the year where we start thinking about albums of the year. I know you kind of said it already, but I think it's going to be one you're going to continue to listen to, isn't it? It's not going to be a pick it up, listen to it a few times, and put it down.
Mm,
It's going to be one that sort of sticks around, and that those are the albums that you end up really loving, aren't they? The ones that really you just keep
100%.
coming back to, you know?
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I think that's it. It's not an album that has like immediate repeated listens. I think you need to sort of absorb it a bit. I think you
It's a
need to
mood
sort of
album. Mm,
Yeah,
mm.
absolutely. It's obviously early on. It's you're going to listen to it frequently, but it's a. I think it's a bit of a once a week jobby, um, which is not a criticism at all. It's just I think it just you don't want to get tired of it. I think you want to give it some time, sit with it, and then come back to it after a decent amount of time. And you can do that for quite some time. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it is it like despite my early impressions, which where it sounded a bit disjointed, the more I've listened to it, the more it has just kind of gelled into a single, like it's an album, it's an
yeah.
album. It's one to sit down and listen to front to back. I think it's a really satisfying listen. There's just so much going on. There's so many flavors. There's so many moods. It rises, it falls. Um, yeah, just a really, really satisfying sounding record.
Do we think that Paradise Lost have ever really had the credit they deserve? It was like I said earlier, all these different eras in their career and all the mixes of sounds that they've done. They got a lot of grief for 1 second, which when I look back at that now is just madness, absolute madness. But
Mm.
this is a band that have been around for getting on for 40 years, and yeah, exactly. And I think they probably have a bigger following on mainland Europe than they do in the UK.
Mm.
But have they ever really got the credit they deserve? Should they really have, right, the Draconian Times thing, the next Metallica, all of that kind of stuff
Yeah.
that going on in the 90s? Should it have gone on further than that? Should they have been filling arenas and
It's
whatever?
well, the problem was is that the late '90s was a realm into itself, wasn't it? And
Mm.
things
Yeah.
just completely changed. But look, the musical landscape is what it is. It will shape itself, and lots of things going on. I think I don't think they have got the credit they deserve to the point they deserve it. But I think there's a lot more love for them than it might feel, if that makes any sense.
No, it
Yeah,
makes complete sense.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like an if you know, you know kind of thing that,
yeah. I think that's the thing is, look, I mean, if you go and see Paradise Lost live, everything is loved. They'll play stuff from 1 second, and that is loved just as much as the stuff they
yeah,
might play from Gothic if they do.
Yeah.
Um, their fan base is pretty devout, is still there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I think bands will openly talk about them as an influence as well.
yeah,
Even listening to this new record, I was hearing like Cradle of Filth in there at times, not like more in the atmospheric stuff, but you can see how that's kind of drifted through. Um, yeah, I would agree with the point. I don't think they've got the credit they deserve. I don't think they got the recognition. They got the credit they deserve, but probably not the recognition in terms of
yeah,
like
the like widespread recognition. 'Cause
widespread.
if you think
yeah,
about that 90s era, they were part of that legendary Peaceville roster. My Dying Bride and Anathema and Dark Throne,
Yeah,
Cradle of Filth, and so many bands on Peaceville at that time.
yeah,
That credibility they will never lose. Even all the stick they got for 1 second and that whole era, they will never lose that
yeah.
credibility amongst your lifer metal fans kind of thing.
Oh,
yeah,
completely. And that 1 second era. I mean, that really was the uh how would I frame it? I wouldn't call it a mistake because it's such a wonderful album, but it
Amazing
was,
album.
artistically it was a fantastic choice and a fantastic decision. But commercially, that's
Yeah.
for a band that were touted as the next Metallica, um, but I can give them nothing but kudos and respect for that because it's like follow the art rather than the commercial success.
yeah. I mean, considering what was happening in metal at the time, I wonder if they wanted to distance themselves from that because as they went through those albums, it got even more synthy. I mean, like I say, Host was very,
Mm.
there was almost no guitars on that album. What was there? And that was '99.
They
So
probably got more stick for
um,
that, to be fair, didn't they, than
Mm.
1 second? Because
yeah, I mean, it's not my favorite album by
it's
any
not,
means,
no, it's not a great one.
um, but yeah, if you consider what metal was going through in '99, I can see that they might have wanted to keep their distance. But it's no, I mean it's like things like one of my favorite albums of a couple of years ago was by Crypta. And there were times in that with how they approach their riffs. I thought, hang on, that's very '90s Paradise Lost. It
Right.
had that sort of vibe to it. So it's not, they're there. They're they're still an influence. They're still clearly loved by younger bands, and yeah.
Mm.
I mean, they obviously they returned to the heaviness, didn't they, in the mid early 2000s. And to be fair, one of my favorite Paradise Lost albums is in Requiem, which I don't again, not a lot of people hold it particularly high, but that was my returning point to Paradise
Mhm.
Lost. The albums between 1 second and that I didn't really pay that much attention to, but from then on, I think they've been really, really consistent.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
100%. I mean, I think that's why it was such a surprise to hear it's their 17th album, because I think there is this murky period in the middle where there's a lot I haven't listened to. I need to go back and fill in some of the gaps.
Mm.
But yeah, when they came back with In Requiem, The Plague Within, Medusa, they're all album like those two, The Plague Within and Medusa. I adore those
Yeah,
records.
yeah,
I, you know, I love them. Yeah.
yeah. Medusa's a great album. It's just it's again, it sounds huge.
Mm,
Yeah.
And
I do think, I mean, you talk about in Requiem, but I think the self-titled album from before, which is for me where they kind of returned to
yeah,
mhm.
that
metal,
was yeah,
but they still kept a lot of that. Maybe they were just holding back a little bit, but it was a return to metal. But there was some really good stuff on that album,
mm,
really accessible. Um, yeah, it's quite underrated, I think.
yeah. I think a lot of their catalog is underrated, and that's the weird thing. It's like I said, it isn't, and if you know, you know, but they more people should talk about them. Think about the size of venue they play in the UK. You're talking sort of 1,500 cap
Yeah, yeah.
rooms. It feels like they should be playing bigger venues than that, purely based off their legacy, if anything.
Mm.
Fucking System of a Down can play fucking
You
stadiums.
know, I was literally about. I think, do I mention something about that? Do I compare it? I mean, it's a different band, but yeah, you look at those bands. I mean, System released what, 4 or 5 albums?
Well, two
Mhm.
good ones.
Yeah, well, yeah, two. I mean, one of them they said just Mick anyway. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's that, and yeah, I mean they've not done anything except hate each other for years,
yeah.
or
Yeah.
just drama maybe. I don't know. And yeah, and then you've got bands like Paradise Lost who just keep doing what they do, sticking to what they do, doing all sorts of other things, and retaining a fan base. Yet they deserve a lot more.
But they are
Mm.
holding on to their credibility, though, aren't they? They're not,
Yeah.
they're not just. It's not just for the sake of it. They're not doing it for paydays, whatever. They're clearly doing this because apparently it sounds like they're enjoying themselves. Um, they're still doing it because they still love doing it.
Yeah, I think we might need to edit this because we might get sued actually if we you know make accusations like
Yeah.
that.
We don't like this reference to happiness that you've made.
No, it's completely
Well,
unacceptable.
although maybe that is if you think about the state of the world these days, post COVID, everything seems bloody awful. I wonder if they're just like, well, we're used to being like this. This is actually quite fun. We're
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
we're in our element here.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it is. It's madness. But look, back to Ascension. I think I'm looking forward to getting the vinyl, and I know that's a bit of a cliched thing to say, but I think this will sound great on vinyl, won't it? Like you said,
Mm.
because the production is so
Yeah,
nice and warm and sounds big, the vinyl will be a nice thing to have.
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah. And it just lends itself to, a time spent on the sofa, big speakers on, watching it spin,
glass of wine,
glass of wine.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
you
being
watch your
suited.
vinyl spin.
I can't quite see it from my sofa. I
About to say,
tried,
yeah. I mean,
you
I mean,
Well,
it's
yeah,
all
I've been,
like
I've been
that
known
eyeball
to. I've
spin
been known. It's a bit like staring into the fire, just
into the abyss.
just watch it spin, crackle.
Standout tracks.
Oh, I
I
think
think to be again, I think it's early days. I think the nature of the album means that it's still soaking in, but I think Sirens really does stick out for me.
yeah, I was going to say the same. The opening track and Sirens for me, but to Voice's point, it's all bedding in still.
I think for me, Diluvium, like I mentioned earlier, and this Stark Town is another one that I really like.
Yes, yeah,
Gem,
that
it's sort
that did stand
of
out as well.
stomping. It's that makes me think of like a heavier version of that of like 1 second because that's
Mm,
quite a driving, stomping kind of you know
Song.
pace, I suppose
mm,
is the way to
yeah.
look at it. But yeah, I think all in all, it's just it's what we want from Paradise Lost, I suppose, isn't it? This is exactly what you want them to be doing now. These songs will sound great live. They'll fit with the rest of the set, no matter what they play. And I think that's
Yeah, yeah.
that's really important that everything will sort of, they could do 2 hours, and I don't think it would sound dull. Like the length of this album, for instance, is quite long, but it
Mm.
doesn't sound too long.
No, you're
We,
right.
we go on
You're
about
right.
the 35 to 45 minute sweet spot. I think this is a bit longer than that,
Oh,
but
it's much longer than that, I
it doesn't
thought.
it doesn't
Mm.
drag on, does it? It's over 50 minutes long, but it doesn't drag on.
Well, yeah, I just think that because this is what I call nutritious music. It's good for you. You listen to it and you just feel I feel well
Paradise Lost a
fed.
part of your 5 a day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is true. Um, yeah, it's music to be savored. It's like I say, it's a satisfying album. It carries itself through its runtime. I think it's great. There was actually a moment talking about playing it live. There was a moment where I thought to myself, I'd love, like, every song I was thinking, I'd love to hear this live. I'd love to hear this live. And you kind of think, I wonder how much of it does get carried into the new set. Do they play it safe and sort of stick with a kind of a legacy set, or let's celebrate this new music because it's a cracking album.
I would expect a good 3 or 4 songs, if
Yeah.
not another one, on top of
Mm.
that. Because
I hope so. At least I hope so. Really.
you know, yeah. Look, it's just good to celebrate bands like this. Again, another legendary British band as well, and we all talk about the fucking Metallicas and all that kind of shit, but another one of those great bands that this country has spawned,
Mm.
and they should be fucking celebrated, which is what we're doing. So,
Yeah, one of our finest.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We thank you, Paradise Lost. Yes, yes, our favourite miserable bastards. There you go. I think that pretty much covers it, doesn't it?
I
So
think so.
basically, what we're saying is, if you're a fan of Paradise Lost, you will like this album. So
Mm.
yeah, yeah,
If you're not a fan of Paradise Lost, I think you like this album.
yeah,
I don't think it requires you to be a fan to enjoy this one. This is just a
nah,
quality piece of work.
yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah, slick, classy, nice. Yeah. Yeah. And on that note,
Mm.
thanks for watching, and we'll be back again in a week or so. I believe we will be joined by Mr. Andrew Field from APF Records next week. So doing a bit of Metal Island Disc. We haven't done one of those for a while, so that'll be good fun. So make sure you check that out. Until then, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Stay metal. See you soon.